Hi, welcome to ExamRevision's Saturday session. Today we'll be looking at junior cycle home economics. We'll be focusing on special diets. We'll be looking at low cholesterol diets and coronary heart disease, obesity and dental disease. These are the special diets which came up the most in short questions in the junior cycle 2022 exam. You can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and of course our YouTube channel. So today's plan, we're going to look at low cholesterol diets first, followed by coronary heart disease, which is also known as CHD. We'll then be looking at obesity and dental disease. So first of all, we will be looking at low cholesterol diets and coronary heart disease. Our learning intentions include defining coronary heart disease, looking at what cholesterol is. We're going to look at which conditions are associated with a high cholesterol diet. We're going to look at how to reduce the risk of coronary heart disease, which is your CHD. We're going to look at what actually causes CHD. We're going to look at how you can prevent and reduce the buildup of cholesterol, which will be key to the questions in the junior cycle short questions this year. So what I would always say is before you start a topic, write down what exactly you know, because chances are you're going to know a lot more than you think. So CHD or coronary heart disease. So in an exam scenario, if you can't remember coronary heart disease, they will take CHD, as I was an examiner this year for the junior cycle home ec 2022 exam. So CHD occurs basically when the arteries of the heart, so arteries, remembering AA away, so that brings blood away from the heart. What happens is they become blocked, and this is due to a substance which is called cholesterol. So it's kind of like a yellow substance. So cholesterol is a fatty substance and it clings or sticks to the walls of the arteries, which means there's a buildup, which means the blood can't flow through easily. So you're thinking if you have a pipe and there's a buildup of stuff in it, the water's not going to flow out through it properly. So it's the same in the case of the arteries coming out of your heart. So what happens is it causes the arteries to become narrower, which means that it's putting more pressure on the heart, and it means it has to pump the blood through smaller vessels. So your heart is getting under a lot more strain than it should actually be put through. So what this causes is high blood pressure, which is also known as hypertension. It can cause heart disease and it can cause strokes and blood clots. So here is a lovely graphical image of cholesterol. So it is the yellow molecules there in the artery. So it's a soft wax-like substance. It is actually produced naturally in the liver, but we as humans can sometimes consume too much, and that's from your high saturated fat foods. So you're thinking back to your macronutrients, which has fat, and you're looking at foods such as like your red meats and cream and the likes of your high fat milk and stuff like that. So anything that's high in fat. And what happens is it's a gradual thing, so it won't just happen overnight. And you can see from the picture there where it has phase 1, that's your normal artery, which your blood is going to flow straight through there and out of your heart very easily. Phase 2, struggle a little bit. Phase 3, it's getting a bit tighter. And phase 4, what's going to happen is that could completely become blocked, and in that case you're going to get a heart attack, which means you're not getting enough oxygen, which is extremely dangerous. So for some people, it might be good for them if they learn a diagram, and then if they're able to do that, they can actually visualize it better. Now, you are not required to do any diagrams for the junior cycle exam, but for some visual learners, I think it is very useful. So here is another picture of your normal artery and the narrowing of the artery, okay? So it's good to visualize something, so then if you can visualize it, you can actually remember and properly understand it. So high cholesterol diets are certain conditions which are associated with it. So no surprise, obesity there. Cardiovascular disease such as your coronary heart disease, so that's your CHD. You're looking at strokes, you're looking at high blood pressure, which is also known as hypertension. It can also aggravate or make certain diseases, such as diabetes and cancer, worse. So there's a lot of conditions there that are preventable if you do not have high cholesterol. And you can get a blood test from your GP, which will tell you if you have high cholesterol. So how can we reduce the risk of coronary heart disease? So first up, you can follow a low fat or low cholesterol diet. So you're looking at foods which are naturally low. So that would be the likes of your olive oil would be much better than your margarine. You're looking at using lean mince. You're looking at the likes of turkey and chicken instead of your beef. You should not smoke because that increases your risk of CHD. Avoid stress. A lot of people can get coronary heart disease due to being overly stressed because that's not good for the body. Lots of exercise. So people who are sedentary or who work at office jobs all day, they are more likely to get coronary heart disease unless they exercise. Do not drink alcohol excessively because this also, again, increases your risk of coronary heart disease just like smoking. Avoid becoming overweight because obesity is something which causes coronary heart disease. So your causes of heart disease, in some cases it can be a family history, so you might be just predisposed to it and there's nothing you can do there, but you can still follow the guidelines to prevent it from getting worse. Being overweight or having a diet which is high in saturated fat. A lack of exercise, so sedentary workers. Smoking, and of course stress and too much alcohol. So there are guidelines for reducing fat intake. A general thumb of rule is to follow the guidelines on the food pyramid, which can be found on, if you go to the ExamRevision website, they're under strand 1 for the home ec, under the food pyramid there. So you should increase your intake of fruit and veg in the diet. You should choose low-fat, unsaturated spreads, so the likes of your Flora instead of the really cheap own brand stuff because they are full of polyunsaturated fats which are really bad for you. You should grill, steam, bake or microwave instead of frying because you're not adding extra oil to it. So therefore you're not increasing the calorific value, which means that you're not potentially causing obesity in the long run. You can eat lean meat, fish or poultry without the skin to supply protein. So your fish would be rich in omegas 3, 6 and 9, which would be good for promoting heart health. You should avoid high fat sauces such as cream or cheesy sauces. You should avoid pastries and cakes because they're also made with lots of butter and margarine, which would be high in calories and high in the bad types of fats. So your saturated fats are always your bad ones. So you should use low-fat dairy products such as your skimmed or low-fat milk instead of your full-fat milk. And you should remove excess meat. So like your pork chops, you should remove the fat and do not eat that. You should cut down on red meat, so you shouldn't be eating it every day because it is a good source of saturated fats which are bad for us and which do increase the risk of coronary heart disease. You should avoid fatty snack foods, so the likes of crisps. So they're just some guidelines, and these would apply not just to this chapter, but many chapters across the whole specification for home ec. So here is a 2022 short question exam. So this was actual question 5, and I corrected the exams this year, and in general this was a very good answered question. So what it says is John has been told by his doctor that his cholesterol level is high. Okay, so that's just some extra information they're telling us. So what we're looking at is part A, where it says name one health problem associated with high cholesterol. So the answers that they were looking for in the marking scheme this year was heart attack, CHD, or you could write down coronary heart disease, but they did accept just the 3-letter CHD, the likes of stroke. They did not accept obesity this year, just in the marking scheme. So anyone that gave that lost out on 2 marks. So then part B, they were looking for 2 meal planning guidelines to follow when planning meals for a person with high cholesterol. So this is were 6 marks, so 3 and 3. So what they're looking at is follow the food pyramid. So for that, you'd want to give a full explanation, because the key verb is explain 2 meal planning guidelines. You would say follow the food pyramid, for example, how many servings of A, B, or X on that particular day. You could have also said reduce the consumption of foods high in saturated fats. So you could say the likes of avoid eating red meat, instead have your lean meats such as turkey. You could include fresh fruit and veg, so your 5 to 7 portions a day. So you only need to have 2 of these, but I've included all of them just so people have a good idea of the standard that they're looking for. You could also choose omega-3 rich foods. So in this case, you'd need to say after that, such as your salmon or your oily fish. You could also use healthy cooking methods. So thinking back to the previous slide, you're talking about the likes of steaming instead of grilling, because you're not adding extra oil, which is then increasing the calorific value. You could also remove excess fat from meat, so that's the likes of taking your fat off your rashers and your pork chops, okay? So in total, this would have been worth 8 marks, and this would have been a high standard when people are answering in this year's exam. So at the moment, we have looked at low cholesterol diets, we have looked at coronary heart disease, and what we're going to focus on next is obesity, and followed by dental disease. So special diets, obesity and dental disease. So on the ExamRevision website, this can be found under strand 1. So there are many different special diets, but I decided just to focus on 4 for today, because these were the ones that came up the most in this year's most recent 2022 junior cycle exam. So learning intentions, being able to explain what obesity is, knowing the causes and being able to explain them, and be able to understand problems associated with obesity, discussing treatment for obesity, explain how to achieve a healthy weight, and then we're going to look at dental disease, be able to explain what it is, and explain how to reduce the likelihood of dental disease. And learning intentions 6 and 7 were a big one this year in short questions. So first of all, what I would always get my students to think about is what they actually know about this topic. It gets you thinking, and a lot of the time you will actually know more than you think. Okay, so obesity, we've all heard about it. So what it means is that you're 20% or more above the normal weight for your height and build. So in an exam scenario, they'd be looking for you to actually say the 20% or more for your height and build. So what they use is the body mass index, which is also known as BMI. So this is what they use to calculate a person's recommended weight, and that's the standard that they use across the world in hospitals to see what your body weight is, and there's like a calculation that they use, and that just tells them, and they reference to a chart. So thinking about the causes of obesity, so it is sometimes the result of a hormone imbalance. So in some cases, it's not your fault. No matter how good you are eating and how well you're following the food pyramid, you could have an imbalance, which means your hormones are not necessarily working the right way. And in that case, it can be medically treated, which can really help control obesity. So it can be caused by overeating. So this means when you're eating more food, then your body actually uses up. So you're kind of thinking like of an old type of scales. If there's too much, it's gonna tipple over. So you need to be able to know how much you're eating and make sure you're not eating too much, because that will cause unnecessary weight gain. So if you have a lack of exercise and you're not exercising at least 3 times a week, like proper strenuous exercising where you're getting into a sweat, and there is a chance it may lead to obesity if you're not exercising regularly. So poor nutritional knowledge, so people who don't do homework and who do not know about nutrition, they may often struggle to figure out what is actually good and bad. So if you're eating a lot of junk food, so you're thinking back to the food pyramid again, which is in strand 1 on the ExamRevision website. If you have food which is high in junk food, like chocolate, crisps, all those lovely nice snacks, they are full of saturated fat, which is bad for you. It's also full of sugar and salts, and they are going to lead to obesity. So it can be hard in shops when they have all these nutritional claims and you're trying to figure out what's good and what's not. But people with poor nutritional knowledge, it has been shown by research that they do have higher levels of obesity. So bad eating habits. So for example, if you skip breakfast and then you're absolutely starving at 10 o'clock, chances are you're going to want a bar of chocolate or something like that, which is full of sugar. You're going to burn out really fast. You're going to be hungry again in like half an hour, and you're going to eat extra stuff. Whereas if you had a good bowl of porridge when you get up in the morning, chances are you wouldn't be hungry till lunch. Okay. So comfort eating. So you're sitting watching Netflix and you're eating a load of pretzels and chocolate and all kinds of sweets and stuff. Doing that too frequently will also lead to obesity. It's okay every so often, sparingly, as the food pyramid says, but it's not something that you should be doing on a daily basis. So there are a lot of health problems which are associated with obesity. So we have a nice little picture there, which kind of gives more. So you have your heart attack. It can also lead to type 2 diabetes. Okay, so type 2 is very different from type 1. So type 1 is you're naturally born with it, whereas type 2 is acquired. So if you are obese and you try to reduce your weight, the chances are your diabetes can be managed a lot better. It can also lead to the likes of certain eye diseases like glaucoma and cataracts, and there's likes of diabetic foot. It will affect your kidneys, and it can cause neuropathy, which is where you get pain in your legs and can't feel stuff, and it can lead to stroke, which means that your brain is not getting enough oxygen, which is extremely dangerous. It can also lead to high blood pressure, which is hypertension, which can be managed if obesity is managed and you reduce your weight. It can also cause gout, which is a type of arthritis which occurs in the feet, where you get these uric acid crystals, and basically it's like you're walking on glass, but it's within your feet, and it's extremely painful, and that is a condition which is commonly associated with those who are obese. You can also get varicose veins, so that would be when you look at your legs and your veins are kind of, you see like these little purple like spiderweb veins on your legs. It's more common in women, and that is a sign that you could have obesity. Obesity also leads to low self-esteem, so you might be in a shop and you might have to get bigger size clothing, and that affects your self-esteem, which then affects your mood. So for your general well-being, obesity can affect that very badly. So there are lots of different health problems associated with obesity. So with obesity, you can have your diabetes here. So we're looking at our type 2 diabetes, which is acquired through potentially over consuming food. Okay, so to treat it, you should reduce your energy consumption, so a low kilocalorie diet. So when you're not eating too much food, it means that you're not putting on too much weight. You should increase your daily activity, so you should be getting out more, even if it's just walking the dog. It is going to help to treat diabetes, which is a symptom of obesity. So to maintain a healthy weight, you should follow the food pyramid guidelines and limit choices from the top shelf. So you'll see how much throughout this Saturday session that I've referred back to the food pyramid. So it is like the section that you really need to look over, because it's not just one of those, it'll come up as part of short question, it could come up as part of any question. It's so important, not only for your exam but for you as a human being, to know the guidelines which are set out by the HSC. So follow the food pyramid guidelines and limit choices from the top shelf. So they're the likes of your sweets, your chocolates, your ice cream, which should be eaten sparingly. Don't leave out nutrients. So just because you are trying to maintain a healthy weight does not mean that you should completely avoid eating the likes of your fat, because then your body isn't absorbing certain nutrients. So the likes of your macronutrients, you have your fat soluble vitamins, which are your A, D, E, and K. And if you are cutting out fat from your body, you're not going to absorb A, D, E, and K, and you could potentially be lacking in those nutrients, which then could cause other things. So you just have to be careful and talk to a professional if you are considering going on any type of a diet. You should reduce your portion size. So Healthy Ireland has some lovely graphical pictures of how big portion size is, and if you go back to the food pyramid again, that PowerPoint has pictures of the portion size. So a slice of cheese should only be like a matchbox size. If you're having a chicken breast, it should be like the size of your palm, okay? So most of us do consume extra and we just don't realize it. The likes of Aldi sells these huge big chicken breasts. They're basically, one of those is basically equal to 2 portions, but I'd say 99% of us would just eat the whole thing, and sure, we wouldn't even know. So you just have to be careful of that type of thing. You should reduce high fat and sodium foods. So high fat would be the likes of your full fat milk, your cheeses, your ice cream and cream. Sodium food, so sodium is a mineral, which is a micronutrient. It is basically your table salt. So you're reducing stuff like, basically, don't put salt in your dinner. Don't leave it on the dinner table because you're more inclined to actually use it. Reduce your intake of salty crisps, salty nuts, the likes of your stock cubes and your rashers. You should choose low fat and low sodium alternatives, okay? So there is such a thing as low salt, and there is your low fat, so the likes of your flora. And you can find more information about all of this if you go into the micronutrient section in Strand 1 on the ExamRevision website for Home Ec, and you will find the minerals there. So you should reduce your empty calorie foods. So what these are foods that give you a sugar rush. So if you have a bar of chocolate now, you're going to feel energized, but like 25-30 minutes from now, you're going to feel hungry and you're going to feel like you're coming down on a low. And of course, you're going to go and reach out for more stuff, and you probably necessarily won't be going for something healthy like an apple. You'll be going for like crisps or something, or a biscuit. And these are all things which don't contribute to a healthy weight. You should try using low sugar alternatives. So if you are going out to get tea or coffee, instead of putting sugar in it, or white sugar or brown sugar, you should try the likes of stevia and canderel. So these are natural sugar alternatives, much better for you. You should plan meals before you're shopping for healthier food choices. So if you go shopping and you are hungry, it's more likely that you're going to get more convenience food. So the likes of your pre-made pizzas, the likes of your sausage rolls. You're going to buy stuff that you don't need. You're going to pick up packs of biscuits, and these are all going to contribute to poor weight. And if you plan your meals, you'll know exactly what you need. So this would be referring back to the meal planning guidelines, which again is really important, not just for this chapter, but all of the chapters. So with maintaining a healthy weight, you're always thinking of less. So you want to reduce the likes of bread. So If you are going to eat bread, you should eat the wholemeal variety, is much better for you. But bread can be high in calories, and there are other things that you could eat instead of bread. You can reduce your potatoes, and with potatoes, I'm just talking about potatoes, we're talking about the likes of our chips as well, which will be very high in oils, which is high in your saturated fats. You're going to limit your full fat dairy products, so you're going to go for skimmed milk or low fat milk, but preferably skimmed because that has very little fat. You're looking for, you can get all these low fat yogurts now. There's a lot of those things about. There's certain cheeses are higher and lower in fat content, so if you refer back to the cheese PowerPoint, you'll be able to find more information there. You're looking at reducing fatty meat, so eat less pork chops, and if you are going to eat them, remove the excess fat. The likes of turkey burgers over beef burgers, because turkey burgers have very little saturated fat, which is your bad fat. You're looking at reducing eggs. If you are going to eat eggs, have the egg white, which has no fat in it, whereas the egg yolk is high in saturated fats. You can still have eggs, but make your omelette with the white, the egg white. The likes of your rice, and then the likes of your pasta, which will be high in calories. There's alternatives, so you could have the likes of cauliflower rice, which is just as nice. If you are having pasta, try and opt for the whole grain brown pasta. It takes longer to cook, but it's much better, and it's rich in fiber, which prevents constipation. So when you are maintaining a healthy weight, you are thinking of the rainbow. So these are the likes of your fruit and veg. So eat plenty of vegetables, fruits and salads. So you're thinking back again to the food pyramid, and you're looking at 5 to 7 portions. Okay, so a portion could be 3 or 4 strawberries, or it could be 1 whole apple. So you need to go back to the food pyramid and see exactly what the recommendations are. You're looking at salads, so you're looking at your lettuces, you're looking at all different types of leaves. Some vegetables are higher in nutrients than others, so ones that have like a high water content, be like the cucumbers, so they would have lower calorific content. So you should look at your leafy green vegetables such as spinach, which are really high in iron, which prevents anemia, which is especially important for teenage girls. You're looking at your white fish, such as haddock. So these are like really low in oils, so they're really good for you. You still do get your omega-3, 6, 9 for your maintain your good brain health, but they're healthy fats, so they're unsaturated. You're looking at your low fat dairy, so you're skimmed preferably. Now kids shouldn't be having low fat dairy because they do need their calcium, phosphorus and vitamin D sources. You're looking at fresh fruit, so not dried fruit. So sultanas, which are dried grapes or raisins, are really high in sugar because they're dried, so give kids some grapes instead of raisins. You're looking at lean meat, so your chicken and turkey over your steak and your pork chops. So again, all this, you're just referring back to the food pyramid, okay? Again, you're looking at avoiding fats. So your saturated are your bad ones, and they're the cream and butter. You're looking at avoiding cakes, biscuits and pastries. So anything on that picture on the right which looks really yummy, you're avoiding. You're looking at convenience food, so that would be the likes of your pot noodles. You're looking at your pre-made dinners, your pre-made sausage rolls, the pre-made pizzas and chips and hot dogs. Soft drinks, so the likes of Coke. If you are going to go for something like that, go for your Diet Coke. Alcohol is really high in calories and has a lot of sugar in it because it's fermented product, so people should be avoiding that. Fried foods, so when something is fried, it's put in oil, which means it's adding extra calorific value, which is just contributing to their weight. Sugar, so the likes of sweets, you should be avoiding the likes of your sweets. So maybe if you're having your toast in the morning, don't put jam on it, maybe put a bit of fresh fruit in it. So again, you're just thinking back to the food pyramid. So if you know the food pyramid off by heart, you'll be able to answer any of these questions. They're actually very achievable questions. So here is a question which came from the 2021 sample paper. So it says here, the picture below shows a poster from Safe Food. The poster suggests swapping juice for water to reduce the amount of sugar in the diet of children. So you think juice, you think, oh, that's really healthy, but it's actually really high in sugar. But juice will be preferable over the likes of your Coke. So in the picture there, it says there's more sugar in this drink than you may think. Give them water instead. So it's through Healthy Ireland, which are the organisation that made the food pyramid, and then Safe Food. So you can see there that there are 4 cubes of sugar in that glass of orange juice. So in part A, they're asking you to identify 2 reasons why it is important to reduce sugar in the diet of children. So what's important there is the verb identify. So they're just looking for short and sweet answers, and they're looking at reducing sugar, and it's children we're thinking of. So why would we reduce it? Well, it can cause high levels of obesity. If a kid is having a couple of those glasses a day, they could actually be potentially consuming more sugar than eating maybe an ice cream. So you want to reduce their levels so that it won't lead to obesity later in life. That orange juice will give them a short burst of energy because it is high in sugar, high in calories, and then they'll burn out soon after. It can cause dental cavities, so it'll because orange juice is acidic, it'll wear away at the enamel of the tooth, and the sugar will get in there and it will cause cavities, which is not what children want. So the next one is part B. So we're looking at suggesting 2 other pieces of dietary advice you would give to someone trying to reduce their sugar intake. So we're looking at dietary advice. So you're thinking back to potentially what you would do if you were this person. So here's some sample answers. So you would choose natural sugars over processed. Say, for example, you could put fresh fruit on top of your porridge instead of sprinkling loads of sugar because it's natural and it is just generally much better for you. You should, of course, again, refer to the food pyramid for guidelines, which suggest that because it's right up the tippy top of the food pyramid, that it should be consumed sparingly. So it's just stuff like that. So that is the 2021 sample paper, and this didn't come up in this year's papers, so who knows, it could come up in this academic year. So far what we've looked at is low cholesterol diets. We've looked at coronary heart disease, which is also known as our CHD. And we have looked at obesity, and then now we're going to look at dental disease. Okay, so you should be thinking about what you know about dental disease and writing that down, because good chances you're going to know more than you think already. And it's good to go back, even if you have studied a chapter, and write down what you do know and then reference back, and then you can see what you do and don't know and maybe do it in different colour pens. It's a good study strategy. So dental disease means that tooth decay and gum disease has occurred. So there are 2 types of dental disease. So when tooth decay happens, it's basically when holes appear on the outer layer of the tooth. Gum disease occurs when the gum surrounding the tooth becomes damaged and infected. So you should be able to differentiate or distinguish or be able to tell what the difference is between tooth decay and gum disease. So here is a nice image of the tooth, and it gives people a better kind of view of what exactly we're talking about, because when we're talking about all these different scientific terminology, it's good to be able to visualize. So the enamel is the hardest part that's outside, and it's actually the hardest structure in your body. So you have the top there of the tooth, which is called the crown. Inside you have your pulp cavity, and this is where you have your roots. So if you have a really sore tooth, or you eat something sugary or something hot and cold and you feel it, chances are you have a hole going from your enamel all the way down to your nerves. So that's when the dentist will put filling in. And you can see that there is bone there, and then there's the gum. So with your tooth decay with your dental disease, it's basically caused by plaque. So this is a substance which contains bacteria, which basically reacts with the sugar. So bacteria plus sugar produces an acid which burns a hole in the tooth. So you're thinking bacteria plus acid, or plus sugar equals acid equals burning. So it's going to make a hole through to your enamel all the way down to your root, and that's when you're going to end up going to the dentist. So excess or too much sugar in the diet is the main cause of dental disease. So if you're having chocolate a lot, if you are having orange juice a lot, fruit juices, the likes of your raisins, which are your dried fruit, your crisps, if all these things are sitting there on your teeth, they're going to start eating away. Especially if you don't do your teeth before going to bed. That's a long time between the food, which is sugary, reacting with the bacteria, which is then going to more than likely cause a hole in your tooth over time. So when plaque becomes hard at the gum line, it can cause it to become swollen and infected, so your gums will look really red and sore. And if your gum starts to get infected, it could cause the tooth to get infected. In some cases, the gum can actually recede, and basically then to such level that your tooth will actually fall out. So it's not just about looking after your teeth, but your gums are just as important. So here is a lovely visual showing the process of tooth decay. So you have your sugary foods, you have your bacteria, which is in your plaque, that with the acid, which then you have a lovely healthy tooth, produces your tooth decay, and that's where you're going to get sore teeth and sore gums. So how to reduce the likelihood of dental disease? So you're looking at reducing sugary foods and drinks from the diet. So you're looking at reducing the likes of your dried fruit, which is always full of sugar, because then that prevents the little nasty microorganisms like your bacteria and fungi from growing on them. You're looking at reducing ice cream and the likes of custard, the likes of sweets and jellies, and your crisps. You're also looking at reducing the likes of orange juice. If you're drinking the likes of Coke, you're going for Diet Coke and Diet Pepsi, all those kind of diet ones which are lower in sugar and sometimes have no sugar in them. You're looking at avoiding adding sugar to food, so don't be adding loads of sugar to your porridge in the morning. Use natural fruit instead. Don't be putting loads of sugar into coffee and hot chocolate. Use alternatives like stevia and canderel. Wash your teeth twice a day, so after breakfast, not before your breakfast, because the food is just going to sit on your tooth all day. So after breakfast with a fluoride based toothpaste. So fluoride promotes strong teeth, and you can find that in the micronutrient section in the minerals, and there's a lot of water that would be fortified with fluoride, depending if you're getting water in a city. If you're well water, you're not going to have that. You should also use mouthwash after brushing your teeth. You should eat a balanced diet. So again, you're going to be fed up with it, but again, we're talking back to the food pyramid and how important it is. And just going back there, you should visit the dentist twice a year. If you do have a cavity or sore tooth, don't put it off. The sooner you get there, the better. If you have a black spot on your tooth, that means your tooth is dying. You need to get straight to the dentist. Try using electric toothbrush, because they are much better at cleaning your teeth than your manual toothbrush. And thinking back again to using dental floss, because that gets at the bit where your toothbrush can't get at. So it's all these things which we do daily which can reduce the likelihood of dental disease and gum disease as well. So this is a junior cycle short question from the 2022 home ec exam. of which I corrected. So we have question 3 here. There's a little tooth and it says healthy teeth start with a healthy diet. Okay, so this question, unfortunately, while it's really, really easy, a lot of people answered it wrong. So in part A, the action verb is identified, so they're just looking for you to list short, snappy answers. 2 ways in which a person's diet can affect their teeth. So we're thinking diet, we're thinking food. A lot of people will have answered here stuff to do with caring for the teeth. So I would have got a lot of stuff like go to the dentist, brush your teeth, use dental floss. And while it is correct, it's not a dietary one, so then the student would be losing out on marks. So each part is worth 4 marks, so you're at 2 by 2 and it's a total of 8 marks. So if we go to part A, we're thinking of food rich in calcium, phosphorus and vitamin D, such as your milk. We're looking at reducing acidic foods such as orange juice, as it weakens the enamel, so that's the hardest structure on the tooth. You're looking at choosing hard crunchy foods such as carrots, because these actually help clean the teeth. We're looking at avoiding too much sugary foods, as they do cause dental decay. So our next one is part B. It's looking for state. So again, short and snappy answer. 2 guidelines to follow when caring for the teeth. Again, I had a lot of answers here referring to the diet, such as eating foods rich in calcium. Why that's correct. It is not a care guideline for the tooth. So these are actually really easy, and people did struggle to get the 2 of them, but they're stuff which you do every day. So the likes of brushing your teeth twice a day, so you'd get full marks just for saying brush teeth twice a day. You'd also get full marks for saying using fluoride-based toothpaste. You're looking at using mouthwash, you're looking at using dental floss because that gets to the bits where your toothbrush can't, and you're looking at visiting a dentist twice a year. You're looking at going to the dentist as soon as you have a sore tooth. So these are all really easy things, but a lot of people would have missed out purely because they didn't read the questions properly. So what I would always suggest to my students is you highlight the key information the way I did, and it just means that you are not going to lose out on marks. So this was an 8-mark question. So in today's plan, what we did was we looked at low cholesterol diets, we looked at coronary heart disease, we looked at obesity and dental disease. So these all came up in the exam this year, but out of all the ones there, the one that would have been answered the most poorly would probably have been dental disease, purely because students did not read the question properly here, and they didn't identify the action verbs such as identified state, and they put a diet answer in part B when it should have been a caring one, and so forth. So you just have to be really careful, and as I suggested, I would highly suggest highlighting the keywords so you know exactly what you're doing, because there's a lot of information there that you wouldn't need. So the likes of that picture and the bubble there, you don't need to know all that. You're just looking at what they're looking for. So if you enjoyed this Saturday session, there will be 3 more. And you can also go onto the ExamRevision website, which is examrevision.ie. And there you can find Junior Cycle Home Economics, which is made by me, Amy Cowan. Under each of the strands, so there's 3 strands. There's strand 1, which is food, health and culinary skills. There's strand 2, responsible family living, and strand 3, textile and craft. So you click in within those, and under each you will find, say for example, if you went to special diets and you looked at obesity and dental disease, you'd find that it comes up like this. So there's your strand 1, you click into it and you would find that it has a video, which basically is me going through the PowerPoint and explaining it, which is really handy to go back and you can watch it as many times as you want. You have the presentation itself, which you can go through and take down notes yourself. You have a quiz, which is a self-correcting quiz, and you can do that as many times as you want, and it's based on the junior cycle exam. You can also build your exams, so based on the past exam questions. You can make your own exam to test yourself, which I'd highly recommend, because then you can see yourself how much you've learnt. There's also a resource pack which has some handy tips and stuff. So this is what it would look like, the front page, and you have your student progress tracker, which just tells you how you're getting on with different stuff, which is really good to see how your learning is going. So you should go to the ExamRevision website. So there will be 3 more Saturday sessions for junior cycle home ec. Make sure to follow us on our social media. So we're on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and of course YouTube. So make sure to look up YouTube, because there are other videos that I would have done in the previous academic year that are there for you to look at for free. We also have courses that we do on the midterms, so keep your eyes posted on the website to see when they are. So thank you for listening to me on this Saturday session with Junior Cycle Home Ec, where we looked at special diets. So we looked at low cholesterol diets and coronary heart disease, which is also called CHD. We looked at obesity and dental disease.